Before we begin taking a look at the spousal support worksheets and reports, it would be valuable to spend a few moments becoming familiar with the program's main window. The main window is the screen that you see when you start the program. It's what you see right now, and you'll notice that the viewing area is divided into a left and right side. The left side is called the tree view, and it's arranged so that you can perform a spousal support analysis simply by following the outline in the tree view from top to bottom. So to begin preparing a worksheet, you usually click over on the item labeled 1, General Information. I should also call your attention to the main window button, which is useful for quickly returning to the main window from any other screen in the program. So, if you accidentally bring up a page that you don't want, and it's covering the main window so that you can't see it, you can return to the main window by clicking the main window button. We'll do this plenty of times throughout the course of this video. As with anything in Windows, you can usually perform any function in several ways, and that's true here, where instead of the main window button, I clicked on the Close Active Window button. That's the button with the graphic of a hand holding a pencil eraser, and I use that to close a page or screen that I no longer wish to view. Either way, I return to the main window. Now, the purpose of the right side of the main window should be obvious. It's to provide a little bit of helpful information concerning whatever item you click on in the tree view. Finally, note that when you hover your mouse cursor over the dividing line between the tree view and the help window to your right, your cursor becomes a double-headed arrow, and you can click and drag the dividing bar to the left or right in order to resize the halves to sizes that are comfortable for your viewing and appropriate for your monitor. Ohio Spousal Support Calculator remembers how you split the main window so that you needn't reset it from session to session. You'll notice that under the toolbar there's what we call a special toolbar. I'll be referring to it from time to time during this video. Although it's almost empty now, except for the Check File button, buttons will appear and disappear dynamically depending on which worksheet or report you're viewing. I'll cover the various buttons and their functions as they appear. As I said, right now there's only one button there, and that's the Check File button. That button's for checking the worksheets and reports for errors. An example of such an error would be working on a shared parenting worksheet and putting an entry on line 27A. Why is that an error that would be flagged by the Check File function? Well, because line 27A is for sole residential orders and line 27B is for shared parenting. Therefore, in a shared parenting arrangement, you shouldn't have any entry on line 27A. So, bottom line, it's a good practice to click on that button occasionally just to check for errors and make sure everything's okay. In this video, we'll use the terms alimony, spousal support, and maintenance nearly interchangeably. I'm not trying to confuse you, it's just that old Ohio cases use the term alimony, later Ohio cases use the term spousal support, the Internal Revenue Service uses alimony, and along the way, everyone sprinkles in the use of the word maintenance. I'm going to start by defining spousal support as an obligation that is established by law in many countries to provide financial support to one spouse upon divorce or separation. It's interesting to note that the definition of alimony evolved over time in that the earliest definitions included the notion of property division, which in Ohio we now distinguish from spousal support. Historically, the concept of alimony dates back at least as far as the Code of Hammurabi in 1700 BC. References to the duty of a husband to support a wife after separation are also found in the Roman Empire's Justinian Code, which dates from about 529 AD. If you do any research on the subject, you'll note that there's no federal law concerning alimony, and that's because in the United States, alimony was really derived from church law and considered a matter falling under state law. So unlike much of our law that's derived from English common law, alimony did not. In fact, it's my understanding that English divorce was not even provided for by law until almost 100 years after the U.S. Constitution. For background research during the preparation of this instructional video, I started to do some research on the history of alimony in Ohio, but it didn't take long to discover that there's a dandy history of alimony in the Ohio Supreme Court case of Wolfe versus Wolfe, which you're probably already familiar with. The site is 46 Ohio State 2nd, page 399, and it's a 1976 case. I assume you're already familiar with the Wolfe case, because if you've ever attended a seminar involving spousal support, 10 out of 10 times you're going to hear a reference to the Wolfe case. So if you haven't read the case in a while and you're interested in the history, you may want to take another look at it. You'll find the complete text of the opinion in a PDF format as part of the downloadable, printable materials that accompany this instructional video. Now, one reason I found Wolfe to be an interesting case is that the court spent about 1/3 of the opinion tracing the history of alimony in Ohio, and the history is not an easy one to follow. It's all set out nicely in the Wolfe case in the extensive Wolfe footnotes, and I won't bother repeating it here. For our purposes, it suffices to know that spousal support is governed by the Ohio Revised Code, Section 3105.18. Section B says that a court may award reasonable spousal support if it's appropriate, and Section C lists 14 factors that a court must consider in determining whether spousal support is reasonable and appropriate. For your convenience, there's a reprint of 3105.18 in the group of downloadable printable materials that accompany this video. We'll be addressing these factors as we proceed, and I'll mention right now that among the downloadable materials is a list of cases that focus on each factor. I think you'll find that list of case citations and summaries, or mini briefs, is quite handy in helping to cut down your research time when you need to do any. Another relevant section of the Ohio Revised Code that we'll refer to is 3105.171. It addresses the issue of property division and dictates, 1, that a court should make an equitable division of marital property, and 2, it should make the division of property before considering and making any award of spousal support. In addition to requiring a court to divide the parties' property before making a spousal support award, it also requires that the property division be made without regard to the spousal support. You'll find that at 3105.171C3. Now, in the list of cases I referred to a moment ago, you'll see that 3105.171 comes up again and again in connection with the consideration of income derived from separate property. Is it proper to consider income from assets that have been awarded exclusively to one spouse, free and clear of any claim on the part of the other spouse? The answer is yes. In fact, Ohio Revised Code 3105.18C1A expressly provides so. A few final thoughts before we get started analyzing an actual support calculation. In this video, we'll be talking about these numbered items that you see here in the left pane of the main window. It starts with general information, then income, then expenses, etc. We'll follow that order in this video, and as we do, we'll mention statutory and case law that may be relevant to a particular section. While we're doing all that, we will also be entering example data of a married couple that are in the process of dissolving their marriage. Of course, as they say in the movies, any resemblance to actual events or locales, organizations, or persons living or dead is entirely coincidental. Okay, now before we start, it helps to realize that these items that you see in the left pane could be expanded to reveal their sub-items in an outline format. Note, too, that the screens we'll see can be divided into two groups, one where you enter data, which we refer to as worksheets, and others which are mostly informational and you don't enter anything. We refer to those as reports. As an example of a worksheet, I'll go quickly here to the general information worksheet. You can see that it's a series of fields where you enter information. That's all I wanted to show you. I'll go ahead and put the general information sheet away for a moment by clicking on the toolbar's Close Active Window button. Again, that's the hand holding the pencil eraser. And I'll jump down here to item number 5, which is the spousal support section. I'm going to click on the Income, Taxes, Support, and Expenses item, and when the form appears, you'll notice that outside of the date field at the top, which fills itself in unless you override and change it, there's nothing for you to enter on this form, and that's what we call a report. Of course, we haven't begun to enter anything in yet, so this report is all zeros. With that, I'll use the Close Active Window button to go back to the main window so that we can, how does the song go? Get this party started. Oh, and finally, through the course of this video, we'll refer to the Ohio Spousal Support Calculator program as MA. I won't go into the sordid details as to how it got that name. Let's just say that it was a situation similar to the Chinese company that named its computer Wang in apparent ignorance of what the word meant in American slang.